Hello Plus League fans, you're watching the Kuan and Ryan show. Today we'll be talking about the Group A representatives from the B League, the Chiba Jets. But Kuan, I'd like to take a moment to kind of reflect a little bit about my time here at the Plus League. Way back in our very first season, we actually had conversations with the B League. And at the time, because of COVID, there was no travel, so we didn't have any high expectations, but we already knew they went through a very interesting process of integrating or reorganizing their basketball into what we now know as the 1B League with multiple levels to it. And at the time, we weren't even asking the right questions because they were actually really seriously gearing up for the 2023 World Cup. And thanks to the East Asia Super League, we got to see it firsthand when they came on October 18th and played the Taipei Foohon Braves at the National Taiwan University Stadium. And it was a different experience, seeing it on video, seeing it on the broadcast, asking them about questions about how Japan approaches basketball versus actually seeing it in person myself in our arena, how professional they are, how prepared they are, how relaxed they are. Funny enough, despite maybe going down in the game, they turned it around, made it a great show, and I think I can speak for all of us. We really had an eye-opening experience that day when it came to the Chiba Jets showing off the best that they can have. And I think we'll get into the game itself, but Yuki Togashi, is a name that I heard for many years from colleagues over at the East Asia Super League. This guy is, of course, not tall in stature, but has a humongous heart. And I almost kind of think that could kind of describe Japanese basketball from where they were, and maybe not the greatest of places years and years ago, to where they're headed to, not only the Olympics coming up in Paris, but greater and bigger things that they've already laid the tracks for. Now that I got the chance to share, but Kuan, maybe we'll turn it to you. What did you get to see, because you were in attendance for that game as well?
Right. Look, I think it's fair to say that out of everyone in our office, you are in the front lines in terms of making this happen, basically. And like you say, it took years. And my role in this really is like everyone else. I'm a fan. I'm a fan looking at the game, watching the game, analyzing the game. But I think what you said, I agree completely. I would say that it is really gratifying to see world-class level of basketball playing in Taiwan. That's something I've never personally experienced. I've never thought I would experience, but I think thanks to the EASL specifically, that I think we're very lucky to have that happen here.
All right, well, let's kind of get into the breakdown. Last season, in fact, for the championship week, Chiba Jets were not in it because they didn't make the finals.
Right.
It was the Utsunomiya Brex. But now that the Chiba Jets are in, and they're bringing Captain Japan, basically Yuki Togashi, there was a lot of conversations about how he kind of had a kind of a subdued opening game against TNT back in Chiba.
Right.
And actually that was kind of the conversation through the first half of this one, where the Jets found themselves down to the Braves, and I might have fell into the trap of being too comfortable with what the first 20 minutes of the game showed us.
Yeah. I still remember there was a article on the discussion board saying that, hey, Togashi is not all that the chatter is all about, but well, we all know now in the second half he dropped 32 points, overall 9 3-pointers to really show us what honestly world-class talent he is.
Yeah, he was the only player to make multiple 3-pointers in the game, and that's been a huge emphasis for Japan for their levels from grassroots all the way to their pros. Is we space the floor, everybody's got to be able to shoot, and we're going to employ a defensive system, which they really turned on in the second half. But Togashi really broke every single Brave down who dared to stand in front and defend him, and it was magical, really. I mean, you talk about the shot before regulation, you talk about the near buzzer beater in the overtime.
Yeah,
just complete poise, because you look at their overall percentage on the game, it was not that great. And I think the interesting thing to consider for Braves fans and the Braves squad is they got to now go on the road and travel to Japan to take on the Jets, who already have 1 victory, 2 overall in Group A. So they're in a really great place right now. as a squad. Let's maybe pull back a little bit and talk about the overall squad too, because they do have another World Cup participant and B-League all first team, or B-League best five they call it. Who's that player, and what other notable names on the squad have you looked up?
Well, you're referring to Shutahara, and he was also a defensive player of the year, ex-defensive player of the year. But right now, at least at the time of recording, he is injured, so we didn't get to see him on the 18th of October. The next game, the Braves will be going to Chiba, like you said, in December 27th. There is a chance that we might see him then. Not sure. I would add, in terms of the roster itself, the other player to be on the lookout for would be Ira Brown. At least according to the chatters, he's only going to play in home games, so at Chiba. So the Braves is going to see a more complete version of the Chiba Jets, and to add to that, the Braves are probably not going to send out, say, Beast Lin, the older veteran guys, to Chiba to kind of nurture the young guys as well. So the dynamics in December will be completely different. I think the other thing to be on the lookout for is also how the Braves will switch up their import rotation to really come back, because we had Zaitsev and Singletary in this game. Next game, maybe they switch it up with Chris Johnson or Zimmerman. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly probably a lot of flexibility to what the Braves do. They do have a much deeper roster, because the rules and regulation in the B-League is actually you can only have 13 rostered players. So it's actually kind of a rather shorter side. Let's maybe talk about their strategy overall as from a team-to-team basis. They don't seem to have the giant 7'2" plus kind of centers. They actually go with a lot more agility, and that was on display from their imports in the game we saw, and we expect for the rest of the season, in fact.
Right, so I think this is a good segue to kind of talk about how roster construction is very different compared to Japan and in Taiwan. So I think it is fair to say in Taiwan, at least the two teams that were standing out, the imports have play a very large part in initiating the offense. So they're usually the leading scorers on the team. Not saying that Japanese imports can't, but I think the philosophy is just different. So you look at a team like the Jets. In the games we observed, let's use DJ Stevens as example. Japanese basketball is known to utilize imports as more of a complementary piece. They let the initiation of the offense, they left that job for the local players. Say someone like Togashi. This is a prime example. So I think it's very different in terms of how teams operate in general. It's more systematic in a way in Japan, and that is actually one of the bigger observations I had after watching the Braves and Jets game too.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to be basketball experts and say, from my perspective, the most lethal play is definitely Togashi at top and their imports lining up. Basically just a high screener roll.
Right.
And once Togashi threads the needle, and then they might have a little two-man game between those two bigs. And as athletic as they are, it's really hard for the defense to keep up and rotate. So, it'll be a big challenge for the Braves. They're import players, and a lot of their roster, we can sometimes say, very experienced, to use a phrase from the English broadcast. And like you did mention, it will be a great opportunity for the younger guys to maybe get in the mix, try their best, do, as what the players love to say, do the assignment that their coaches give them. Ira Brown, in addition to the two imports, like you mentioned, just works in that system very well, but he actually is on the more experienced side, and he actually played excellent during their game against TNT. In fact, you could consider him the best player of that game.
Yeah, he had 19 points and 12 rebounds, and I think if fans of Taiwan are not familiar who Ira Brown is, I think his usage, you could parallel it to the Kings with Quincy Davis. So he's a naturalized player in Japan, so he counts as a local. And to me, that might be their biggest advantage. I think that's a fair thing to say. And to your point about Togashi, there's not a lot of guards in this competition that has the shot creation, the level of shot creation and skill level to really do whatever he wants in a pick and roll situation, really. You look at the Braves game, like you said, he can thread it to the two bigs they have. He can also shoot a fadeaway three off a screen and roll. So it'll be interesting to see how the young guys really, or how the Braves in general, because they played in box one a lot of times in the previous game. So it'll be interesting to see how they tweak up their strategy a little bit.
All right. Now, in the B-League, especially at the B1 and B2 levels, each team plays a 60-game regular season. So it is a very long haul to get to the end of their tournament. Currently, there are 24 B1 teams in the mix, and as I kind of alluded to, they have plans to like even evolve their league in the future. I think the set date is for 2026, where a draft, requirements about stadium attendance. So Japanese basketball has really turned into a powerhouse, and it was a real honor and privilege to get to see one of their squads up front, up close here in Taiwan with the Jets. And we'll look forward to even more from them and see how it plays out for the rest of the year in the competition.
Yep.
That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like on the video. Of course, leave a comment. Get in the part of this discussion here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Plus League channel. And guys, we'll see you in the next one.